tuned into the truth frequency.
Your protection from deception. This is Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome to Spirit's Journey, coming to you live on Truth Frequency Radio and simulcast on Oneness Talk Radio. Your hosts are Patrick and Catherine Andrews.
Join us each week as we explore a wide range of metaphysical topics such as dreams, astrology, intuitive readings, and life purpose. You'll receive practical guidance so that you can live your most awesome life.
Learn more about what we do at intuitiveschool.com and connect with us on Facebook at Spirit's Journey Radio. Welcome to Spirit's Journey. We are coming to you live on Truth Frequency Radio, and we are also being simulcast on Oneness Talk Radio. You can find us on iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live as well. We are here in the Heartland, holding the energy for spiritual truth and awareness. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Catherine. Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to have with us today, again, Robin Rose, who, of course, is the event coordinator for the upcoming Reignite Your Light conference in Florida, which we'll be talking about today. But I want to tell you a little about Robin. She is a spiritual coach, light worker, writer, artist, minister of spiritual enlightenment, and, of course, an amazing spiritual event retreat leader. She's the author of Mother Mary and the Undoing Process, and co-creator and coordinator of one of the longest-running spirituality conferences called the Universal Lightworkers Conference. Her heart's desire is to be a catalyst for the healing and transformation of hearts and minds through the teaching of the grace and the understanding of the law of attraction. Robin teaches angelic certification courses to help people connect with the angelic kingdom and certifies others to do the same. So Robin has this amazing gift of vision and had interactions with the angels, Mother Mary, and her beloved son Jesus since she was a child. She is a prayer healer through the International Healing Rooms and is trained in various healing and mystic arts, which she incorporates into everything that she does. Through Robin's work, she guides others to connect with the grace and truth of who we are as divine beings and to use that knowledge to create a life of freedom, abundance, and empowerment. So this is a mystical, magical journey of wonder and unfoldment that reaches to the very depths of your soul, designed to bring you into the splendor of your authentic self. And that's kind of the focus of the upcoming event, Reignite Your Light Summit, which there's still time to sign up, folks. It's June 22nd and 23rd in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, at the beautiful Westin Hotel right on the beach. But more importantly, there are amazing presenters like Robert Mack, Dee Wallace, Kelly Keisha, Robin Rose, of course, Joelle St. Germain, and the list goes on. So this is really an event if you're ready for some transformation. So we'll talk more about that. But if you want to sign up, please go to reigniteyourlightevents.com. And in the meantime, we're going to welcome Robin.
Hi there. How are you all?
We're good. How are you doing, Robin? Glad to have you.
Pretty awesome. Thank you. I'm always happy to be here.
Well, yes. And so I am just getting so excited about the Reignite Your Light conference. And so I want to talk about, the idea of the Reignite Your Light event is that it's an event presented by a group of amazing light workers. And a lot of times in, the metaphysical realm, we throw around the word light worker. And I would love for you to really describe from your perspective, what is a light worker?
Well, from my perspective, a light worker is anyone who chooses to remember and develop their inner light and who want to share that with others to help them awaken to that light themselves.
Well, that's very good, because a lot of people, they think it's some airy-fairy term, and I think a lot of people with that definition could be considered light workers.
Yeah, there's tons out there. Being a light worker on that level to where you're actually stepping out consciously to serve humanity, that's something that's in your DNA. That's a calling that, you can't walk away from. There are people who consider themselves light workers who's not on that same path or level. I don't want to say level because I don't mean it that way, but that they call themselves light workers, but they're not really serving in that same manner where they're actually thinking about the all of humanity, all of us together. Everything I do as a light worker enhances the lives of everybody else, So there are different, uses of the word, but I believe the true meaning of it is that those of us are called to serve the light in that way. It is a calling that just comes from within. You can't help it.
Now, Robin, I am going to speak for some of our listeners here that may not be able to do so. And I know when I first started getting into this kind of a spiritual path, that I had to do some soul searching to really understand the meaning of what people were talking about when they're talking about their inner light. So if somebody hasn't really encountered that experience before or looked at spirituality in that way, could you describe a little bit for us what you mean by being aware of and responding to your inner light?
Well, I think when I refer to inner light, I talk about that deep feeling. It's a feeling of love and joy and completeness that you feel inside. And I don't think any of us feel it at every moment. If we did, I don't think we'd be here. But that there's powerful feeling of love that dwells within each and every one of us. And when we go through that soul searching journey, we begin to remove the barriers that keep that light or that inner love, which is really the divine self. It keeps it hidden. But when you go through that journey, like you were saying, you go through it, you start to remove the barriers and all the things that have stood in front of it, and you release it. It's this inner splendor that just comes alive within you, and you begin to recognize it more and more, and you begin to realize that you have a better love for yourself. And in having that better love for yourself, you're able to share that with other people. So, when I studied mystical Bible teachings, they talk about that as the quickening of light within you. And it is basically the love that turns on, that's always there, but you haven't reached it. But when it turns on, that's when the light shows itself. It becomes the light. So the light is the way you see it in a sense visually, but what it really is love. I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. It does, because it really cuts to, kind of the quintessential experience that we relate with the best qualities, really, of human existence and spirituality is love and the concept of love. And sometimes we don't really identify exactly what that means. We can recognize it through actions, and we can recognize it within ourselves through our feelings, but sometimes we don't think about how much of a guiding influence that actually is in our lives. When I was first getting started in studying metaphysics and began meditating on a regular basis for the first time, I actually had experiences where during my meditations, I would see brilliant displays of light. And, we could talk about that being neural pathways firing in our brain, but I do believe there are multiple levels of our consciousness, that there are higher levels that extend even beyond just the functioning of our brain and our conscious mind. And so I believe, that's what we're tapping into, is those higher levels of consciousness. And there's also some other experiences people have related that seem to also kind of hint at that too. Like when a lot of people talk about near-death experiences, usually there's some kind of a display of light. They see some kind of brilliant light, and they talk about, they had the choice of either going into that light and leaving this life or coming back. And so, if someone hasn't really experienced that, it's worth exploring. I think taking up any kind of a meditation technique might be a good starting place for that. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely. And when you think about the aura of everything has an aura. Everything has a light surrounding it. So when you tap into that inner love and that original being of who you are, that gets brighter and brighter because, like I said, you remove the barriers. But also, biblically, when, in Genesis, when we were created, God created us all good. And then when you move into a couple chapters later, it actually talks about God sending his light to us, that we are his lights. And so we are referred to as the lights of God in the actual Bible. So that's how I, kind of relate things, because I have my pretty intense metaphysical study, but I also have my biblical studies and so forth. So I always try to find where those things agree. And, when you're talking about Course in Miracles, they talk about the light. When you're talking about even Law of Attraction, when she's talking about the vortex, or, when Abraham Hicks was talking about the vortex, they're talking about this light that dwells within us. So like you said, with meditation, I had the same experience when I first started meditating. It just became this beautiful light show, and it was just really awesome. And it excited me enough to keep me going, to want to know more, feel more of that. And I think it's a great way for people to start.
Yeah, that's great. I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because a lot of people actually are sensitive enough to perceive that aura. And it really doesn't take that much training and practice to start to see, some signs of that light around material objects. And I think that study is really fascinating. And, one of the reasons why I pursued a study in physics is because I really enjoy quantum physics. And, energy is all about physics is all about the study of energy. And so when we look at matter, we get down to smaller and smaller particles until basically we're just talking about energy. It's not even really matter anymore. And so,
Right.
when Jesus would talk about, you are the light of the world, I think a lot of people took that figuratively. But now, with all my studies in metaphysics, I believe that there is a very literal aspect of that too. And I've learned from reading the Bible that Jesus liked to speak in multiple levels. So I think that probably both were intended for whichever level you could relate to most. It's a really beautiful example. But I've been fascinated over the years, just continuing on this path, just discovering the beauty and the wonder that the universe really is.
There's an author. She's a minister and an author. Her name is Annette Capps. And her father, Charles Capps, was a evangelist preacher in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and he was the type of preacher who could, heal by word and heal by touch and so forth. But she was a scientist. So she and he got together and correlated quantum physics to the Bible. It's fascinating. It's totally fascinating. So if you ever want to look into that, her name's Annette Capps, and I just think it was just incredible, because he was such a Bible voice. So to hear him being able to talk with this daughter of his about science and make them both work and support each other, it was wonderful, just wonderful.
Well, I'm a true believer in that too, and I really believe there will be a point where we see a union between science and spirituality. And, people can practice many different religions, but it's really spirituality that's the foundation. We have a question coming in from our chat room, if you'd be able to answer that. And King Sweet in the chat room is saying that anger, pain, and sorrow creates a darkness in the mind, and so is looking for some kind of suggestions of how to connect to the light that we're talking about. Whenever it is that we're experiencing that darkness of those darker emotions, and sometimes people talk about the shadow self, how do you bring your attention back to the light?
I go with the standard, seek the kingdom of God first. That is when I'm in that place, and I have those places, like when I'm doing these events, I have those moments where I get terrified that, something's going to go wrong or whatever. And I get really scared, and I go through a lot of nervousness. But, when we're going through that darkness, what it's saying to us is that, in a sense, we have forgotten our light. And that doesn't make it any easier to remember your light, but it does in a sense that if you know the truth of who you are as a divine being, if you know you're created in light, you're created only good. There's nowhere anywhere that we were created anything different. When God saw us, he said, that's good. That's it. When you have to build that bank account in a sense, your spirituality is like a bank account. You have to continually be depositing some good stuff in there. You've got to find things that inspire you. Take moments. When I'm like recently, I had a moment where I was feeling really down and upset. I actually went on YouTube and just started watching things that made me happy. Just little clips of, bloopers from a show that I like, or just, something that could take my mind away from a moment from that darkness. Because when I had that moment, I was able then to get out the things that inspire me, get out the things to do me so that I could switch my mind up. So it is a conscious effort that you have to make. And sometimes that's a drag because you don't really feel like you want to do it because you are feeling so down. But you have to use something to break it. So the more that you know who you are, the more that you're filling your spiritual bank, the more you're in touch with, the truth about who you are, the love of who you are, the beauty of who you are, the joy, the magnificence, the splendor that you are as a being. When the dark moments come, it's less of a battle to get back. But if you don't have that bank account filled, you will constantly be going bankrupt. You'll just be overdrafting yourself into darkness more and more. So it really takes finding those things that bring you happiness, that make you laugh, that make you just for a moment to be able to change your mind and step out of the darkness so that you can reach for your spiritual tools to refill yourself. That's how I do it. That's how it works for me.
And I love that analogy, Robin, because there's a great astrologer, her name's escaping me right now, but she talks about that same concept that you have this spiritual bank book. And during your lifetime, however much you accumulate is going to have a lot to say about what occurs in your next lifetime. I think what this person might be referring to also is there's so much going on in the world that obviously is negative. And sometimes, you just kind of want to bury your head in the sand. And I know that one of the things I'm dealing with is, when we're confronted with all these, people doing unproductive things in the world, so to speak, instead of approaching it from the standpoint of I'm against this or I'm fighting for peace, we have to, would you agree, turn it and put it in the positive and say, instead of saying, for example, I'm fighting against something, to put it in the positive to help deal with all the, stuff going on in the world.
Well, yeah, if you look at the world too, yes, I agree with that. But if you look at if you take things, like when you're dealing with like law of attraction and things like that, what they're saying is the more you focus on something, the more you get of that. So if you change your focus, not to be looking at it and going, oh God, look at, all those people are starving, but you can look at it and say, yes, I recognize that that's happening out there. But what I'm going to choose to see is that those are my brothers in Christ, and I'm going to recognize the light within them. If you can recognize the light in them, if you can look at that situation and say, God, can you please shine the light on this so I can see it through the eyes of Christ, it will dispel the illusion of it. It will help those people that are experiencing raise their vibration. And you're doing that for them because you're connecting to the light of who they are inside, and that light begins to burn brighter. So that's the responsibility, and I don't know if responsibility is the right word for a light worker, is to be able to see those situations going on, know that they are not what a Christed being or a divine being would be living, and to look inside past that, shine the light on the darkness, see the light inside of it, and let that pull that out. Because otherwise you're just perpetuating the same, you're just giving power to the negativity, and you can't do that. You've got to look past that part of the illusion of it, which is difficult because it's right in your face and it's terrible. It looks horrible. But if you can allow that yourself to do that, to just shine the light on it, give me an interpret, you're asking, when you're shining the light, you're asking for spirit to change your mind about it, to show you a different way to see it, which generally brings a clearer, more positive energy to it, thus taking away some of the negative energy of it.
Mm-hmm. And so, you alluded to one of the things that a light worker is here to do is just shine the light. And what else would you say, like if you had to give a description of a light worker, somebody says, I want to be a light worker, obviously they do a broad range of things, but how would you kind of encapsulate what they do?
Well, most light workers have the desire to serve in some way. That could take on the role of being a healer, a teacher, a minister. It can take on, someone who's fighting for civil rights. I mean, it comes in so many different forms. But the constant that runs between all the different forms is this very deep desire to serve and to shine the light on things, basically. So it can come in any form. I mean, you can have, like Marianne Williamson is running for president, and she's a light worker. She has been able to learn how to move her light to touch the world, but now she's stepping into another arena with it, and if she's strong enough to do that, she'll be president, So it's the form is not really as much the issue is the desire behind it, the intention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, that is amazing that Marianne is running for president. The more I read about things that she's saying, I'm like, yes.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, we actually participated in a summit just a little while ago. It was a fundraiser for Marianne Williamson. Also, it was a push to get her to that magic number where she could actually be on the Democratic national debates.
Nice.
So we're glad she made that number. What's that?
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say we're glad that she made that magic number so she can be on the debates. But they did let us know that if more candidates join, that it's not a done deal. So if you would like to see her be able to speak, keep plugging and even making small donations to show that she has the base that she needs to be on television with the debates. Keep don't consider it a done deal. Keep pushing, and we can make sure that she's up there to give us a voice. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that would be really cool.
All right. So we are going to be going into the break here in just a little bit. I did want to touch base because I also really liked the concept of the spiritual bank account. And I thought of a technique that actually is very simple, easy to get started with, that you can use if you would like to start adding into your spiritual bank account like we're talking about, because I know positive thinking sometimes gets a bad rap because sometimes people think you're being Pollyanna or being caught up in this utopian vision of the world. But really positive thinking is keeping your mind focused on what you want to create in your life. And our mind activates that process. What we focus on tends to become more prominent in our lives. It's part of the law of creation, and it's how our consciousness just naturally works. And so when we keep our attention focused, one easy way that we can start connecting to that inner guidance that we talked about is to do a simple breathing technique. So if you just sit quietly, you can close your eyes. You can do this anywhere. Even if you're sitting in a waiting room, waiting for your doctor's appointment, whatever you're doing, just close your eyes for a moment. People might just think you're taking a little nap, and focus on your breath and be very aware of every breath that you take, aware of the path that it goes through your body. Just make that your whole life, your whole existence. Nothing else exists for you except for your breath. And it's a very powerful and simple focus technique that gets your mind off of anything that might be negative. It gives you a chance to refocus. And then it's those quiet moments when we're able to quiet our mind that we can reconnect with our inner self. And so I hope that works for everybody. So if you want to join our chat later, and if actually today, if you want to share some experiences that you've had, you can join our chat room at tfrlive.com, or you can also join the chat room at onenesstalkradio.com. You can talk with other listeners and share some of your experiences as well.
So, Robin, when I think of light workers, I immediately think, because I'm an astrologer, of the zodiac sign of Aquarius, because the symbol of Aquarius is the man or woman with the pitcher of water, and they're supposed to be watering all of humanity with their teachings. And so we are in the astrological age of Aquarius. And do you think because of that we're seeing more and more light workers appearing?
Interestingly enough, we had this is going to sound weird, it seemed to be a downcline, or whatever, however you want to say it, of light workers for a while, but they are returning to and I don't think they went anywhere. I just don't think they were showing themselves as much, but it seems that we're heading back up again, and more people are stepping out now, partly because there is so much negativity happening, on the outside, so much, appearance of darkness. And so the light, there needs to always be a balance. We live in a dualistic universe, and as long as we still believe we're here, there's always going to be the need for a balance of light and dark. That's just how it is. Once we start getting more in touch with the divine of who we are and much more feeling less separate from our spirit and from God, the light will eventually take over. I mean, it's just has to, because we are naturally created from light, and we're infinite beings, so it will take over. But as long as we're still having the confusion of being in this world, we will still need to seek that balance. It's just how it is. But it just seems, because there is so much more, with our president, with the other countries, that are playing with their bombs, and, all these refugees being displaced and so forth. The light is having to step up to get itself shown again, where when things were quiet, there was just this even keel, and it's not like that now. So we are really being called forth to step out and bring that light back out into the world to keep the balance.
Yeah, I agree. And so do you have any quick thoughts we have about, well, actually, we are getting ready to go into the break. So I guess we'll have to pick that thought up when we get back from the break. And so we're approaching the bottom of the hour. We're going to be going into a short break here in just a moment. During the break, please go to our Spirits Journey page on tfrlive.com, and you can support the station, Truth Frequency Radio, and help provide more programs like this. And Truth Frequency Radio is a listener-supported station, just like public broadcasting television is. So the station does benefit from your contributions. And so 50% goes to the station, 50% goes to Spirits Journey to help us continue offering this cutting information on spiritual health and development. So you are listening to Spirits Journey on Truth Frequency Radio, being simulcast on Oneness Talk Radio. See you on the other side.
You're listening to the Truth Frequency Radio Network.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
Welcome back. You are listening to Spirits Journey with hosts Patrick and Catherine Andrews, coming to you live on Truth Frequency Radio, simulcast on Oneness Talk Radio, among other places. We are back from the break.
We are here with Robin Rose today. And Robin, right before we went on break, we were talking about that there seemed to be a little period where there was a dip in the amount of light workers that were coming forth. And I was thinking about that over the break. And do you think at certain times that perhaps some of the light workers kind of hide, because a lot of times, as currently now, they're attacked for their beliefs, especially right now in the natural health field, those people that are speaking out against, forced vaccinations and taking away our health rights, and, they're being censored and punished. So do you think that, some light workers have to hide because of that?
Yeah, I think that they, I don't really consider it hiding, but what I think it is they have to go regroup. They have to, they have to get back into that spiritual bank account and build it up again to be able to become the force that can counteract what's happening in the world. Because we're living in this physical universe, and in the physical universe, it appears that has more power because you're seeing the physicality of it. But in actuality, spirit is the most powerful thing. However, when the physicality becomes so intense and so attacking upon you, it does make you push back and go, okay, I need to regroup. I'm speaking from experience, because I just did this for 4 years. I felt that I had to go back within, and I had to regroup, and I had to refill, because I had expended so much of myself. Because part of it was my desire to want to make that right. Like you were saying, you're wanting to fix that situation, but the more you focus on it, it becomes more powerful. So the stepping back allows you to rebuild your bank account so that you can counteract what's going on.
So do you have any specific action steps that if somebody feels like they're in that position where they need to refill their spiritual bank account, do you have any suggestions on maybe things that have worked for you or techniques that you've learned over the years that they might be able to put into practice?
Yeah, I first and foremost, like I said, you always go to the kingdom first. So I always go to Spirit and I say, what do you want me to, how do you want me to see this? How do you want me to experience this experience that is the most good for the most people? So I always ask that. And then I start finding new avenues to refill. So that might be, I start reading up on a new, maybe there's a new spiritual teacher in the world or something. I start reading and I start looking for other spiritual things to fill me, to inspire me, to make me feel happy and make me feel good. Because when I'm in that place, I'm more receptive to hearing the Holy Spirit come in and say, okay, this is what's going on and this is more of what you need to do. Let's keep building this, keep building that. I also believe in movement. When I'm in a space where I am feeling depleted, I actually have to move. That means I either get up and walk or I dance or I do something, but the movement allows the energy to stop getting stuck in the various areas of your body and allows the light to start flowing more fluently so that you're starting to feel your vibrations start to rise again. And then I also do breathing techniques like you were talking about. I have one where it's a simple breath in, it's one breath, but you breathe it in 3 times and then you blow it out 5 times. And I will do that to kind of center myself back in so that I don't fall back into, falling into whatever negativity and so forth is going on. And then events, you need to surround yourself with like-minded people. It could be church. It could be just going to, a little lecture here or there. This is why I do the events I do, because I've seen the power of change that happens when you go to an event where there's all people focused on the same thing, which is light and love or whatever. It could be healing. It could be whatever. But they're all like-minded in that one place. And it just ignites the light in each one of us and allows us to, for me, it actually makes me feel like I leave, like I burst through a lot of things and I become a new person. So when I'm out of that experience, when I walk away, I know that I have just now moved to another level of consciousness, another level of love and of light and so forth. So I really believe that connecting with others, working with your body, doing the breath work and getting inspiration, reading, watching things, divorce yourself from watching TV programs, and watch things. If you have to watch something that inspires you. Because if you go to bed after watching Game of Thrones, which I've never seen, that is now in your consciousness. And you take it into your slumber and it gets integrated in there. So, but if you watch, say, Greg Braden talking about, quantum physics, that goes into your brain. So which one do you want in there building your light? It's either going to dim your light or build your light. So that's what I feel has worked for me over these past 4 years that I took a break from everything, so that now, when I got the inspiration to do this event, I just woke up and heard the Holy Spirit say, it's time, do the event. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm back in. So I felt refilled enough to be able to step back into the world and start bringing that light back out.
That's amazing, Robin. I love that idea that, who you surround yourself makes a big difference. And I've heard that, if you surround yourself with people who are more enlightened than you or however you want to look at it, that you will naturally rise to that vibration. And I've experienced that myself too. So that definitely works. And so since you mentioned the event, do you want to, in your own words, just talk a little about what people can experience during the Reignite Your Light event?
Well, the events are about that. They're about people coming together and basically supporting each other as they experience light and love in a way where you're getting the inspiration, because you have the presenters that have spent their lives. Dan Millman's been 30 to 40 years doing the peaceful warrior work and, sharing his story of how Spirit stepped in and helped him to open his heart and become, the light that he has been to the world. And he's talking about life purpose. So, when you have people like that who have walked the walk, who are living it, whose vibrations his vibration is so awesome. I just love him. You just cannot help, like you were saying, it cannot help but raise that within you. There's a saying, if you're the smartest person in a room, you need to get a new room. So if you're feeling that your spirituality or your light is at a certain place and you're not going any further, that's what these events are for, to step into a room where there's other people whose light are higher, lower, off this way or whatever. But by the end, everybody's light becomes one. And when you've been at a concert or something and you feel the power of everybody all on the same wavelength, it's incredible. It moves mountains. It changes the world. And I know from my past events, there have been physical healings that people have had. There have just been miracles of, in people's lives where they've left and their lives have been completely changed. We've changed the weather. I mean, people coming together like that and joining in spirit. I just really don't feel, personally, there's anything better you can do for yourself, because that vibrational rise that happens, it's like skipping a bunch of lessons because you do it all together at that moment. And you just walk away feeling like a new person. You feel revitalized. You feel like you can take on the world. And technically you can, because you've just moved past a lot of, I'm going to say crap, that's the best word I can think of, that you've held in there. You've just moved past it. And in all honesty, for me, I do it because it's easy. When I get into that feeling, when I connect with all those people in those rooms, I can feel the barriers and the things that I've been holding on to drop away. And I see through new eyes, and I feel different when I leave. And I just think the power of that is just incredible.
Now,
that's what we expect every time we have an event.
Well, yeah, we've been to your event before. It's really amazing and transformative. And I've been to other events that have a similar kind of an impact. And I know sometimes when people attend those events, they can get really hyped up in just the euphoria of that experience of everybody coming together, sharing their energy, sharing their ideas. And, in some ways, I think that we each individually become better than the sum of who we are at that moment, because we are just so high on everybody's energy. Do you have any suggestions, like after an event like that? How do you maintain that energy? Because I know sometimes it's a little bit of a down afterwards, just because it's like, okay, well, I'm back in my life now and I've got to continue this. So what do I do next? So what would your thoughts be on if somebody's a light worker, they're really wanting to improve themselves and improve the world, how would you go about that after a wonderful event like that?
From my past events before, the internet and everything became such a big deal. I mean, it has been a big deal for a while, but prior to this, the one thing that people would call me after an event and say, I don't know how to keep it going. My family doesn't feel this way, but I'm just walking on air and I don't know how to keep it going. And I think the biggest thing is to stay connected to the people you are with. With this particular event, we did a private Facebook group for just the people that are at this event, so that they can interact with each other. They can keep the friendships alive. And that is one thing will help. But also you have to, when you walk back into the old paradigm of what you were living before you came to the event, you have to make those changes in that paradigm. You have to realize that maybe this person doesn't fit, and it's a hard thing when you're dealing with people, but your world is who you surround yourself with. So, when you come home and you're feeling high, but maybe you come home and, you have an alcoholic partner, you really can't stay in that position. If you do, then your light will dim again. So you do have to make changes. You need to get your spiritual, get a spiritual practice, what is it goes back to filling that bank account. Do you have inspirational stuff that can keep this light alive? Do you have people that are going to support you in keeping your light alive? Do you have outlets of volunteering or being of service or, being a healer to keep that love alive? Because the more you give it, the more you receive it. So you've got to be in a position to give it by keep refilling and giving it out and giving it out and out. And then it just keeps growing within you. So it's very important to have community, keep inspiration, and just be of service in some way.
So there's still time because this event is next weekend. How would somebody find out more about that if they're interested in attending this in Florida next weekend?
They can go to our website, which is Reignite Your Light Summit. It's Reignite Your Light Summit is the name of the event. The website is Reignite Your Light Events. And you can just go on there and you can register for it. The one thing about the events that we do is that we care more about people being there than anything, because the more people who are there, the more lights begin to shine and brighten. So we always tell people to, if you don't come just because you don't have money, call us, email us, go to the website, contact us and say, look, hey, I can only come and I can only pay this much or whatever. We just want people to be there. We want them to experience this, because as a community of light workers, we want the light to build as much as we can, especially when we're looking at the world and going, that looks pretty bad right now. So let's build this light. Let's keep it going. And so we just never turn anybody away. We just don't. That's just not something we've ever done. But just go to the website and there's a contact page there, or our email is contact@reigniteyourlightevents.com. Don't hesitate. It's very interesting. You can offer a person something and they're afraid to take the advantage of it. And it's like, don't be afraid. You're a light worker. We're here to help your light shine. So don't be afraid. Call us, email us, sign up for the event. Just be there. It's an incredible experience, and I guarantee it will change your life.
And that's amazing, because I don't know any other event that says, well, if you can't pay the full price, email us. We'll see what we can do. I've never heard that before. So it truly is a work of the heart that you guys do. And one of the things too, Robin, I know that I don't know if channel's the correct term, but you receive messages from Mother Mary. And I was wondering if you have any recent messages from Mary about helping us through this personal period right now with everything going on.
Yeah, I do. She actually has been kind of coaching me about what I'm going to say at the event. So Mary has just said that this year is a year of awakening. It is a year of reawakening. So she said that there's going to be a lot of movement of people, a lot of people moving, a lot of things, like almost feeling like the ground underneath you is just moving and you just got to do your best to stay with it. And she's saying, just keep coming back to spirit, keep asking for the guidance to see it through the eyes of Christ, for one thing, but also calling upon the angels, because she's working with the Dominion angels who have come in for this awakening, and their whole objective is to support us through it. So she was saying, if you don't feel supported, just make that call. Dominion angels, come to me and show me the light and give me the support, and they will come, and you will feel it. You will either hear the voice of spirit talking to you, you'll feel the presence, but just to know that they're there and that the support is there for us in this time, even though it doesn't look so on the outside, it is there, but it is our responsibility to make room for it. So that's where she's saying you have to ask. You have to clear your mind and say, let me see this through, clear eyes, and let me be the instrument for the light and love of God. And that's been her kind of big message recently for me.
And that's interesting. You say we have to ask for it, because I know in talking about spirit guides, a lot of people say, well, how come my guide just doesn't help me? And from my studies, and I don't know what your perspective is, Robin, but I have learned that the guides are not allowed to just step in. We first have to ask. And then when we've given them permission, they can step in. Has that been your experience with spirit guides as well?
Yeah, we actually, when Jesus went through his mission and became the Christ, he gave us dominion, gave us back dominion. When we were created, we had dominion over the world, and then we kind of gave it away. But when he did his, came back to life and did his resurrection and everything, he gave us back dominion. So we have to ask for that help. We have to request it, because we are actually the ones who are in control. So we have to keep our authority, and we are the authority figure in a sense in this world. So we have to say, I want this, I need this, and so forth, because no other being has enough power over us or enough authority over us to just come in and do anything. So we do have to ask, most definitely.
It's interesting that a lot of religions have this tradition of prayer, and metaphysics has this concept that you focus on what you want to create in your life. They both seem very similar to me. So I think that, over the centuries, there's been this continual intuitive sense that we can turn within and, state our requests. But sometimes I think we get so caught up in everything that's going on, we forget to do that. It's such a simple thing, but can be so powerful.
I think it's confusing too, because like you said, there's so many different, you've got metaphysics talks about it one way, religion talks about it another way, Hinduism talks about it, it's all these different concepts, but prayer is just simply talking to God and then meditating or being still and listening to, and prayer isn't always about, it is about asking when you want something like that. If you want the angels to help you or you want your spirit guides to come in, you do need to ask. But in general, everything is already ours. And a lot of prayer is more about confirming that or affirming that, Holy Spirit, thank you for this beautiful day, because this is the day the Lord has made, and I accept all of the goodness of it. So there's a lot of prayer is based more on, when it comes to metaphysical and some other teachings, it is about just being thankful and acknowledging the gifts that we have been given by Spirit. And I work that way, but I still like when I've been talking to those Dominion angels a lot, and I do say, will you communicate with me and support me on this particular situation and help me distill myself to get the clarity I need for an answer and so forth. When I feel drawn to do it, I do ask.
One way that I've helped to simplify it in my mind and when I'm working with students is to think of it like a conversation. I mean, that's really what we're describing, right? Because we are asking for something, but it's not that we're begging, sometimes people consider that begging, but it's just making requests. It's just saying, look, this is what I would like to create in my life, and to be aware that help can come on any number of different levels. I mean, somebody that's right here on the earth with us can telepathically pick up on that. A spirit guide may help you out in some way. There's all these different levels of helpers who are out there. The universe really is such a benevolent, helpful place when we align our minds to really activate it. But then, like you said, the other part of that is listening. So like any good conversation, you're not just talking all the time, but you're also listening to what's going on. So that's where then we quiet our mind and we meditate, or maybe we go out fishing, or whatever it is that is quiet and peaceful for us, where we can hear that inner guidance. So yeah, I love that.
That's
very
also
simple.
You also have to know you have to know it's been answered. You've got to give the gratitude, because asking it is given. That is the rule. I mean, that is the law of God. Asking it is given. So you've got to be able to ask and just say thanks, and then quiet yourself so you can receive it. And like you said, you got to be open to receiving it in whatever way it comes. I mean, you can't really have too much, what do you call it? I don't know how you say it, too much, depending on how the form comes of it, because what you're asking for, and technically is the content of something, when you're saying, please help me, I need some more money here, everything, what you're saying is you're feeling lack, and you're feeling a lack of peace, a lack of joy, a lack of comfort, a lack of support. So, but that form that is coming in is that you don't have any cash, but behind that is what really matters. So when you say, I need this help, what you're saying is I need peace, I need ease, I need some comfort here. And you have to allow that to come in. And when you allow that to come in, the physical will take over, yes, and the money will show up. But what you've got is the true essence of it, which is the peace and everything behind it. So you have to really rely not on the form, but more on the content of what you're asking for.
That makes so much sense, because really money is just paper, right? And so it's the energy behind it. It's not, I mean, who wants a piece of paper? What we really want is what it represents. And so I think that's a great tool for people when they're visualizing. And, a lot of people will make a list of what they want and they'll put, I want $10,000 or whatever. But if they could go deeper and say, well, what is it that I really want that $10,000 to give me, and be more specific,
Right.
a lot more people would probably get what they ask for instead of the $10,000.
Exactly, because they're wanting the calm and the ease and the comfort of, if I had the $10,000, I'd no longer be worried. I would be at peace. So what you're asking for is peace. But you want it to come in the form of the money. And it may come in that form and it may not. But when you get the peace, you're not going to care what form it comes in, because you're at peace.
I really love that attention on gratitude that you were mentioning too, because when I was growing up, I was always taught to, when somebody gave me something, to say thank you. It's a nice form of appreciation. You're acknowledging what you're receiving. You're acknowledging all the things in your life that are working. So I think that's a very simple practice. It's great and it's very powerful.
And so,
because you're actually saying, I know, God, you're going to take care of me.
Exactly. Just trusting in that. And, when I look at some of the great masters, like Gandhi or Mother Teresa, it doesn't seem like they came back to the earth because they had karma to work out, but it was more like they wanted to be of service to the world, like light workers do. And so how can light workers avoid the human traps?
You can't give them the power they think they have. Karma is a very interesting thing, because karma, when you look at it from the perspective of the yogis and the people that taught it, karma is teaching. It's a lesson. A lot of people get tripped up and they'll, so maybe you're having some money issues, and someone will say, oh, well, in a past life, you did this. Now your karma is, you got to pay for that. And it's like, no, that's not what karma is. Karma is just the lesson. So I don't really participate in karma in the way most people do, because I believe it is a lesson. But also, when you look biblically, the word repentance actually just means to change. So karma is about changing your mind about something. So when a situation comes up and you have the opportunity at the moment to look at the situation and say, I would like to change my mind about this. This appears to be wrong or hurtful or whatever. But in reality, what is that? What is the truth about that situation? It's very similar to the money situation. It's like, or what we were just talking about, the form and the content of it. My form looks like sickness, but what is behind that? Change my teach me, show me what is behind that. Oh, I see. I'm not feeling supported. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling some anger inside, and it's taking itself out on my body. So karma to me is basically looking at a situation and saying, can I see that correctly? Not from how it looks ugly, but how it really looks in the light. And it takes away, because a lot of people in New Age and in metaphysics take karma to mean they're being punished for something. And I really think that's so sad, because we are never being punished for anything. The only thing that makes it appear a punishment is the way we think about it, our belief in it. And when we can have clarity to that belief, to what reality is, the belief disappears, and all of that so-called karma is gone.
Well, that's a really good note to wrap up our conversation, Robin. We've loved having you on today. Thank you so much for coming and being with us today. And
I love being with you guys. Thank you.
And we love having you. And so everybody can find out more about you at reigniteyourlightevents.com, correct?
Yes. Come be with us. We'd love to have you. Don't hold yourself back.
All right. And to all our listeners, we love having you with us, but we don't have to part company. You can stay in touch at Facebook at Spirits Journey Radio. Be sure to like our page so you can be part of our life and we can be part of yours. You can also check us out on intuitiveschool.com. This has been Spirits Journey live on Truth Frequency Radio. And I'm Patrick.
And I'm Catherine. Have a wonderful week, and maybe we'll see you at the Reignite Your Light event in Florida.